So.
Hey!
So when you're preparing excerpts for auditions, you run into these dilemmas, like, well, at the end of this measure, sometimes there's a rubato in the orchestra music, but sometimes they're not, and it's not written in, so what do I do? You run into a section where it's just written piano, but you know that standard practice is to make a bigger deal out of the dynamics and add a lot of phrasing on your own. So what do? How do you figure out what to do? What is appropriate for auditions and what is going too far? How do you know when something that you're doing sounds like an impressive, tasteful risk that you're taking and what sounds like, whoa, that's too much? So one of my friends I went to school with, Jake Nissly, has won a whole bunch of auditions, all principal pretty much. He won the New World Symphony audition and we were in New World pretty much at the same time. Right after that, he won a series of principal auditions, Detroit Symphony, Cleveland Orchestra, and now he plays principal in the San Francisco Symphony. I know Jake is a very methodical practicer. There's a lot to learn from him. I wish I could have asked him more, but I got to catch up with him in San Francisco earlier this year and this is what he said. Jake.
Hey.
Great to see you.
Good to see you too, Rob.
Since we were in school together, you've won 3 principal auditions.
That's correct.
Detroit, Cleveland, and San Francisco in that order.
Correct.
Did you feel like specifically any of those auditions you were trying to play in the style of the orchestra at all?
I don't think so. To a limited degree, I think I checked out the available recordings, pick people's brains about what those concert halls. An orchestra like Cleveland has a very specific traditional sound in a hall where you play in a specific way. I'm more of a firm believer in presenting who you are as a musician, and that will come true rather than some sort of contrived notion of trying to completely change who you are for a certain audition.
So when you were shaping the ends of excerpts like rubatos and stuff like that, were you trying to find a way to play them in order to get more yes votes on those panels, knowing how they play or the hall they were in? Or were you just like, this is how I think it should go as a musician?
My intent is always to just present who I am as a musician, and so I have sort of a philosophy within the audition is I want to do as much contrasting as I can do. So I might prepare excerpts A, B, and C a certain way. If I see on the sheet ahead of time, this is the order of the excerpts, this is what you're going to play, I will sort of craft it so I have sort of a standard deviation with each excerpt. Like maybe, let's say I'm playing Porgy and Kolos and Harrianos back to back to back.
Okay.
It matters less to me what mallets I know that their former principal used or what the hall sounds like, as opposed to how can I make these 3 things contrast with one another so I don't play them all, let's say, at 128 beats a minute and all with the same xylophone mallet. I heard this recording of George Zell with Cleveland Orchestra and, I don't think that's as relevant.
Students are looking at their music, trying to figure out like the end of the snare drum movement of Bartók Concerto for Orchestra. There's like a little rubato, but it's not written. So they're trying to decide how much to do it. You'd say even more than saying like, this is how the recording went, you'd be like, okay, well, I'm playing these 2 other excerpts which don't have rubatos, and then I'll contrast it by putting a rubato here.
You hit the nail on the head there. My sort of, again, the philosophy with that is there has to be a flexibility there and a willingness to maybe take risks. And I think at the end of the day, so many people are so good at playing the right notes and the right time. But you get to a point where it's a lot of different flavors of ice cream, and how do you stand out from the pack there?
Do you think that that is a trait that you happen to have and you happen to win a bunch of principal auditions because of it? Or do you think that's a trait section auditions would be looking for, but also principal auditions?
The positions that I've been fortunate enough to get were all principal positions, but I don't think I went in with an intention of like, okay, I got to play like a principal here. The other auditions I took, whether it was assistant timpani section percussion or just playing section percussion or whatever, I don't really think I thought about it in those terms. And I think that would be, if I'm listening to an audition here for a section player, I would probably listen for the same stuff, a malleability, a flexibility, and adaptability, you know, rather than just like, here is the way it goes. Yeah. Which I think works for some people, but I see that being less and less successful.
So if you're hearing a section audition, you're listening for them to make those musical risks.
Yeah, maybe not on every single piece. I think it's like everything in moderation. Let's say Bach is a very good opportunity to put your stamp on something. Maybe less Porgy and Bess. If I hear rubato and Porgy and Bess, I would wonder to myself, it's interesting, but I've never heard it done like that, other than the strings who sometimes vary their tempo when you play it in performance. I don't think that's standard performance practice as an audition to play Porgy and Bess with rubato.
So it's like you find what's appropriate, and when something's appropriate, you can exaggerate it and stretch it and milk it, basically.
Yeah, I think you use your judgment, use good musical common sense, and think, okay, What have I played back to back? Now I played Bolero, that's pretty straight ahead. I played Kiji, that's pretty straight ahead. And then say Bartók Concerto for Orchestra is next. I would probably, if that had been the order of things going there, I would probably change a couple things about it. Maybe, you know, I might change the tuning of my drum on the fly. I probably wouldn't change fundamental things like stickings or things that require me to think actively while I'm playing.
Right.
But, you know, I might milk it. These things, you know, just a millisecond of a delay could make someone look up from their sheet and be like, oh, that's the one.
Yeah.
I love the way that that candidate did that. Rather than like, there was another one that was fine, you know, fine. Oh, I don't think you can do on every single excerpt or else it starts becoming too much hot sauce.
Do you practice that in the preparation, or do you just let that seep in from your musicianship?
But a lot of my practice with the metronome, you know, which I do always practice with the metronome, but it's almost always in big beats, you know, every couple measures, so that the macro time lines up, but the micro time has the innate musicality to not always be so computer perfect. You know? There are times and places for that, but you know, I think that that seeps in just by not getting too bogged down in the rights and wrongs of auditions and realizing, you know, very generally, all that anyone wants to hear is someone that they can work with and something that sounds good.
Thank you very much,
Thanks,
Jake.
Rob.
Yeah. So what is your process when you're trying to figure out what musical risks to take? How do you know how far to go or what's going too far? And then do you have a process like right when you're about to play where you look at all the excerpts and you think about how you can use the specific sequence of excerpts that you're going to play in that round in order to show off more of your musicality and to show some variety? So if you do have auditions coming up, you might find useful this audition cheat sheet, which is basically a list of the steps I go through in order to prepare excerpts for auditions from the day you get the list to the day of the audition. You can download that for free at robknopper.com/audition cheat sheet. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.